Correct. And you can get women to be slaves, theoretically, if you raise them up to be slaves, pretty slaves that are properly dressed. Yes, ma'am, please, ma'am. And a good little girl who's going to dress nice and be sweet and be a good, what we praise women who are good slaves. If you are a compliant slave who gives everything to your man, and if you are an Eshet Chayil, in Hebrew it's called an Eshet Chayil, a woman of valor. If you are that woman, it's applauded. It should not be applauded. A victim. If you're a victim, you're applauded. A woman of valor who can find, it's hard to find a woman of valor. Her price is far greater than rubies. I'm willing to buy a woman. They can be bought and sold. But a really good slave, a female who's a really good slave, that's greater than ruby. Got to get you. Well, what does she do? She gets up before the sun comes up. So that's what all you women need to do. And she begins working her ass off. She makes the clothing for her children. She makes the clothing for her slaves because she got slaves too. And then she goes to her other job, which is the market, where she sells her wares and makes money. She cooks and cleans and properly cares for the entire home. And then she goes to the market. The market traditionally was the place for the women. The men worked in the fields and the women sold the goods in the market, right? And they kept the money, but they controlled the money, right? And then the poem in the Bible ends with that he sits at the gates. So he's just sitting all day long. Sitting with the elders at the gates, having his cappuccino with his friends, or maybe he's sitting in a synagogue somewhere in Jerusalem eating cake, stuffing cake in his face that he didn't pay for. Talking about how he has a good slave at home, right? And if you tell an Orthodox Jewish man, well, I don't want to be a righteous woman, I don't want to be an Eshet Chayil, well, then you're going against God. You've gone against God because if you were doing God's will, you'd be my slave. And so it's obvious that you're going against your nature and against God because you aren't willing to be my slave and give me your money. Oh, no, they work you. No. Orthodox Jewish women are expected to also work. They average about 10, 11 kids, no birth control. Mm-hmm. Yep. They get some help from the state in Israel, like $200 a month for every child. Their husband does nothing. He sits in a seminary reading books and hanging out with his friends, and we pay for that too. It's something like $600 a month for that. And that's not enough money to live. So when she isn't taking care of her 10 kids, she will get a part-time job, either teaching or working somewhere to bring in another couple of hundred. So she gets up before the sun comes up and she takes care of her 10 babies. And then she has to do endless laundry because that's a lot of laundry. And then she's got to scrub the toilet because the toilet, all that stuff needs to be scrubbed because you got 10 people using one toilet. And lice is out of control. They've got a huge lice problem in Israel because of overcrowding. So everybody's getting lice. Every time I would visit my friends, I would have to get a treatment because all the kids and all the hair mingling, you can't get control of it because of all the overcrowding. And the women are just completely exhausted. They look like they could collapse at any minute. So usually when the kids are at school, that is when they have to get the entire house cleaned and an extra couple of hours to try and find a way to make money because when he gets home, he's going to want to have something to eat. His job that's his job, is to sit in the synagogue and read and hang out with his friends, all covered and paid for by the Israeli government. And if you don't agree to that arrangement, old-fashioned, we believe in old-fashioned principles of exploiting you. If you don't agree with that, then you're a bad Jew. You're a bad Jew, Whimsy. That's the kind of gaslighting that I experienced in Israel, and that's the kind of gaslighting that I'm starting to see happening here in the United States. It's just first, this group of people overthrew the smaller countries like Israel. Israel fell to this right-wing extremism, and now I see we're now 88 for women's rights, a country that used to be like top 10, right? Top 10 for women's rights. Israel is now 88 because of Trump derangement syndrome, right? Because Trump's doing a great thing. He's helping you get back to God, right? Which means be back to being a slave who's exploited, right? And now we see the same thing happening here in the United States, right? Taking away your birth control, expecting you to go out and work. Bring me money, honey. Yeah, you ain't brought enough. You ain't a good wife, man. Get up before the sun come out and go get me some money, honey. First you got to clean. You got to cook. The cupboards, it's like that song by, what's his name? Tom Waits. Come on.